I hear some breathing hard.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Huh? Everything's being evaluated, right? All right. Those of you that jogged it on over, I'll go ahead and start for you guys. Those people that are walking over, I'm just going to go ahead. I thought today was a lot of really good work. Had a bunch of situations. 2-minute red zone, some move the ball stuff. I thought early on, the offense did some good things early on, and then I think the defense kind of responded a little bit as the practice went along. I think the best thing, about all this work is I think all of our guys are competing extremely hard. And I think has to be a foundational piece for, our football team this year is just that, competitive nature. And so I'm pleased with what I'm getting out of that. Again, we had the officials out here today, and there's a few things that need to be cleaned up. And yet I thought, for the amount of plays that we ran today, I thought it was relatively clean. So they'll be out here again the next couple of days. So we'll have some game-like situations. So
I was going to ask, is it going to kind of be high volume like this all week?
Well, yeah, I think, I'm going to look at the play counts a little bit, and we may knock a few off tomorrow, but and we'll probably kind of taper it down a little bit as the week goes on. But today was it was a grinder for a reason. And I thought our guys, pushed through it.
It was sort of a revised script since you didn't have the joint practices. You're like, how can we make these competitive?
Yeah, well, I think it was a lot of what we would have done against the 49ers had they been here, and trying to create as many of those game-like situations as we can. So, again, I thought it was good practice.
And I noticed that the walkthroughs were offense on one field, defense on one field. Was that so that the other didn't know what was being thrown at them, sort of, as opposed to scripted practice?
No, not really. I mean, in terms of the scripted practices, the only thing that either side of the ball knew was what's the down and distance and what's the personnel grouping. That's so. So the on the script, the defense had no idea what the plays were going to be. I'm talking about the coaches.
Yeah.
And the offensive coaches, and had no idea what the defensive play call was going to be. And so it was probably as close to game-like as you can possibly get.
Do you normally do that in a camp, or that was in place of having another team here?
No, that was something that, I just thought, we needed to do. I think, look, there's something to when we script these practices to make sure we're getting kind of the plays that we need to get, the looks that we need to see, and so there's a choreography about all of that. And there's a lot of script review that happens before you come out to practice, right? And so, but that's not how the game's played. And so I thought it was important for us to, just go out here and kind of play football. And have to be able to call the game that way also. So, and then there was a couple of periods that were just totally unscripted, nothing. Offense will put out a personnel grouping, defense got to figure it out, and the officials were marking the ball where they thought it would come down. So kind of a controlled scrimmage, if you will. So that's kind of how we operated today.
We want to see a little bit about like the kicking competition, but maybe not so much about the punters. How do you think that's gone through this point?
Yeah, look, I think it's a competitive, situation. Both of these guys, both have strong legs. Both have had really good days. Both have some things that they still need to try to improve on. And I think it's a legitimate, competition there. So we're not ready to make any decisions, and we'll let these preseason games play out. But I do think it's a good competition.
You referenced, I think that maybe back in OTAs you needed to kind of see the ability to flip the field a little bit more. Has Lou gotten better in that regard than he was last year?
Yeah, and look, I think when you really look at Lou in the season that he had last year, we kind of put together a chart in terms of all of his kicks, and the thing that comes out is there's a lot of consistency. If you just look at it plotted on a graph, all the dots are kind of in the same area, and so you know exactly what you're getting, and there's a comfort level to that. And you see some of these other, plots, and there'll be one dot over here, which is a really long kick and flips the field, but there'll be one over here that, is one of these 20-yarders or 25-yarders. So I like that I know from a consistency standpoint pretty much what I'm getting. I do think he's gotten better in terms of some traditional punts instead of the end over end Aussie style, and yet I still think that's an area that he can still work to improve on. No, go ahead.
A couple of weeks of training camp practice and a preseason game. How do you see Fuaga has progressed as you go along?
Yeah, look, I think the biggest thing for me with him is I don't think the game's too big for him. I rarely see him make the same mistakes twice. And yet I think he needs to get out there and play football and play in these preseason games and get some reps and, understand, what he can and can't do. And until you get out there in games, you really don't know. And so I think every day is a learning experience for him, much like it is for every other rookie that's out here. But I do see him improving on a daily basis.
We obviously see a ton of positions where you compete and rotate. Safety, we just talked about yesterday. You did it with left guard for a while, linebacker. What's the philosophy behind right tackle has not been an open competition so far as you've
Well, I would disagree with that in terms of, I think there's part of it with the offensive line and trying to create some cohesiveness with a group. And yet there's got to be some competition. And I also think this. I think that I'm looking for, okay, I want to see one of these other guys step up and tell me that they need to be the guy. And so, this isn't, we don't run a charity organization where we just give things away. Guys have to go out and earn it, and you start somewhere, right? And then, I'm looking for, okay, where are the signs, that say, Coach, you need to put me in here. And where we're at today, I still feel like we've got the right 5 guys out there, but we're going to continue to evaluate it at all those spots.
Oliudo obviously missed a significant amount of time with the injury.
Yeah.
Have you seen for him sit from July 22nd through whatever?
Yeah, look, I would say there's still some inconsistencies, and yet, if you watch play after play after play, you see some good things. But I would say in relationship to that, or in relationship to the left guard position, I'm waiting to see who just jumps out there and says, this is my job. And so we'll figure it out.
Yeah, with your background kind of as a defensive coach and so many teams trying to replicate either this offense or, kind of that Shanahan-y offense, what are you going to make of when so many teams try and run the same type of scheme? And is that newer since you've been in the league, them trying to replicate this offense specifically, or does it kind of come and go in waves of
No, I mean, I don't think there's anything new to it. I mean, I think, look, this is a copycat league, and so everybody's trying to see what's being successful in our league, and they're trying to mimic those things the best that they can. And so, now, what's that style or what's that, scheme? I think sometimes that changes. But I don't think there's any question that, we're all watching the tapes. We're all evaluating all 32 teams, and I mean, I'm not ashamed to say if somebody's doing something really good, I'm not above trying to steal it.
Does the scheme lose its effectiveness then when so many teams are trying to replicate it?
I mean, if it's effective, then it's still effective, right? You know what I mean? So, no. And look, I'm going to be honest with you, okay? It's not about the scheme. Everybody talks about the scheme. Like, there's some of that, right? But it's about how you teach it, the detail, how you demand the details, the effort that you play with, the precision with which you play. I'm talking about in all phases, right? Offense, defense, and the kicking game. Everybody wants to talk about what you play. I think a lot more of it's about how you play, and so look, I think there's some coaching staffs that do an excellent job of teaching, whether it's offense, defense, kicking game, and then they're holding guys accountable to doing their job and doing it right. And so if you have good players, okay, and you teach it with precision and you hold guys accountable, and then the players hold each other accountable, that's where you have success. So yeah, some of it's scheme, but there's a lot more to it than just the scheme.
When TJ Miller got hurt 3 weeks ago, you expressed some concern just about it being hard to make the team from the training room.
Hadn't gotten easier.
Well, where do you stand with that evaluation now, and do y'all feel like you're going to be able to have a full evaluation by the time?
Same place I was when we started training camp. I got no other information to go off of. So, yeah, I still think it's challenging.
Be more of a comment with him, but he's been doing side work, but he hasn't taken that next step to get back to team. And we've seen other guys with hamstrings that do the same and then get back.
They're all different. They're all different. And so, but guys like DeMario Davis, who I've been with since 2018, right? And he's made a lot of plays for us. All right, I'm gonna be a lot more I got a lot more information to base my evaluation off of than just what I see out here in training camp. Some of these other young guys that I don't have as much information on, it's hard for me to say that guy, and I'm not just talking about him in general or specifically. I mean, this could apply to a lot of guys. If they're not able to get out here and practice, how can I evaluate it?
Was Kendre's a little bit more severe compared to some of the others?
Well, he's not out here yet. You know what I mean? So I don't know about the severity. I just know that you go through a rehab process, and some guys are able to get back out here quicker than others.
Do you have any update on Daily Ford?
He had the other hamstring today. All right. Thanks, guys.